All right, let's jump right in. What if I told you that the secret to getting everything you've ever wanted isn't about hustling harder, but about trying less? I know, it sounds totally upside down, but today we're going to explore an idea that completely flips the script on what success is all about.
Don't try. That's it. Just 2 words. That's what's written on the gravestone of the writer Charles Bukowski. It's a statement that just seems to fly in the face of everything we've ever been taught about how to achieve anything, right? And that really is the big question for us today. We're going to unpack this wild idea that maybe, just maybe, all our constant effort, all that straining and struggling, is actually the biggest thing getting in our own way.
So first, let's really dig into why that conventional wisdom of just try harder so often leads us straight into a brick wall.
I mean, we've all been there. You put in the long hours, you grind it out, you push yourself to the limit, and you still don't get the result you want. And, the whole idea we're exploring today makes a really powerful point. If trying hard was the actual answer, wouldn't most of us already have everything we wanted? The problem might not be your work ethic, it might just be the method itself.
This list right here, it really breaks down the psychology of why trying too hard just backfires. See, trying often comes from a place of fear. The fear that you don't have enough, or maybe that you aren't enough. And that creates all this internal resistance, this mental static. It's kind of like when you're stressed out and you try to force yourself to think positive. It just makes it worse. And the end result is almost always the same: burnout, anxiety, and a whole lot of frustration.
Okay, so if all that frantic effort is actually the problem, then what in the world is the solution? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. It's making relaxation your new default state.
And this definition is so important. We're not talking about being lazy or just vegging out on the couch all day. This is a totally different kind of relaxation. It's an active, internal state. It's about letting go of that desperate need for things to be different and instead really cultivating a feeling of gratitude and abundance right now, exactly as things are.
And the best part? It turns out there are really only 2 things you need to do to make this incredible shift. Seriously, just 2.
That's it. I mean, it sounds almost too simple to be true, doesn't it? But really think about it for a second. How often do we actually give ourselves permission to just be relaxed or treat ourselves with real kindness instead of that harsh inner critic? These aren't just passive things. They are very conscious choices you have to make.
And this is the core idea, the engine behind all of this. Your inner world literally creates your outer world. So when you start to cultivate that state of relaxation and that feeling of inner wealth, you actually change your whole vibe. You stop chasing things from a place of lack, and you start attracting them from a place of already being fulfilled.
Okay, so now let's see how this idea builds into something even bigger, something even more profound. We're going to look at the work of a fascinating teacher named Neville Goddard, who really took this concept to its ultimate conclusion.
So picture this. It's 1933 in the middle of the Great Depression in New York City. Neville is a dancer. He's totally broke, feeling like a failure, and all he wants in the world is to go home to his family in Barbados for Christmas. The only problem? He doesn't have a single penny for the trip.
So he goes to his mentor, a man named Abdullah, probably hoping for a loan or some practical advice, but instead he gets this totally bizarre instruction. Abdullah doesn't offer him money. He just looks at him and says, "You are in Barbados." He tells Neville to completely stop wanting to go and to start living right now in his imagination as if the trip was already over and done with.
And this is the real technique here. For weeks, Neville absolutely committed to this practice. Now, this wasn't just idle daydreaming. He was disciplined about it. While he was physically walking through the freezing cold streets of New York, he used every single one of his senses to imagine he was home. He would feel the warm Caribbean breeze, he'd hear the ocean, and every single night, he'd fall asleep in his little New York apartment, feeling as if he were actually in his childhood bed back in Barbados.
And then just before the very last ship of the season was about to sail, the impossible happened. A letter shows up from his brother, who he hadn't spoken to about this at all. And inside is a $50 check and a note saying that a first-class ticket home has already been bought and is waiting for him.
But here's a part of the lesson that is so important. At one point, Neville was offered a third-class ticket, and he was tempted to take it. I mean, it was a compromise, but it was a ticket. But when he told Abdullah, his teacher got furious, slammed the door in his face and said, "You were in Barbados and you went there first class." Why? Because any compromise in your imagination, any settling for less, breaks the spell. You have to stay completely faithful to the perfected vision. And sure enough, a first-class spot opened up for the whole trip.
This chart really breaks it down perfectly. Thinking of your desire, well, that keeps it separate from you. It's a statement that you don't have it. But thinking from your desire, that's a whole different reality. You're embodying the feeling of it already being yours. You literally shift your mental state from effort and lack over to relaxation and fulfillment.
So, if we were to boil all of this down to just one thing, what's the single most important takeaway? What is the one key that makes this whole system work?
It all comes down to the feeling. That's the secret. It's not just about making a mental picture of what you want. It's about emotionally living in the reality of it. You have to actually generate the feeling of your wish already being a fact, and then you have to live from that feeling. That is the true creative act.
And here's a fantastic, practical little exercise that Neville suggested. You don't have to imagine a bunch of complicated scenes. Just try to capture a general feeling of success or joy. A simple way to do this is to just repeat a short phrase like, "Isn't it wonderful?" over and over again until you start to feel it. Don't analyze it, don't ask why, just let that feeling of wonder wash over you.
So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. We spend so much of our lives obsessing over what should I do or how am I going to get there? But what if the most powerful question you could ever ask yourself is simply, how do I want to feel? And what if achieving that feeling right here and now is the only doing that ever really mattered?